In today's class, what we are going to see is the FE formulation, but uh, what we have discussed till now is the finite element formulation in terms of displacement fields. We have also discussed various types of uh, three types of elements: one node 1D element, two node 1D element. These two elements I think we have discussed. Now, how to club the process of discretization and finite element formulation along with the variational principle, that is minimization of potential energy equation that we have derived. So to explain all that, to explain that, I am not going to explain it theoretically. Instead, I have considered a problem. So in this problem, we are going to look at all the steps that are involved in finite element formulation using variational principle. So let us start. So this is a beam, this is a bar. Let us call it as A and B. So this is bar AB of cross-sectional area A and modulus of elasticity E. So material property is E and geometry is cross-sectional area A. It is a prismatic bar, so I will mention it. So what is prismatic bar? Prismatic bar means the shape and size of the cross-section remains constant throughout its length. So this is prismatic bar of A and E. Cross-sectional area is A and modulus of elasticity is E. Uh, and it is subjected to a uniformly distributed axial load. So the load is along the axis. So as you can see, all these arrows are along the axis, and something like uniformly distributed normal load, ये रहता है हमारा uniformly distributed normal load, which typically acts on beams. So that is, let us say, 10 kilonewton per meter. So this load has a ordinate of 10 kilonewton per meter. You walk 1 meter on the beam, and in that 1 meter you would have gained the load of 10 kilonewton, but that load is normal to the axis. But in this particular case, the load is acting along the axis, so it is axial load and uniformly distributed axial load. I hope you are able to imagine this kind of load. It is 30 kilonewton per meter, but along the axial direction, and everywhere the load is pulling the bar. Now, what we want to do with this? So we want to find out stresses, strains everywhere in the cross section. We want to know its deformations, deform shape, everything. So if that is the case, the first step that we are going to do is discretization. So if you look at this bar, you have infinite number of points on this bar, and at each point, the x directional deformation. Let me now define the coordinate system. So let me call this as x. So at every point, x directional deformation is going to be unknown. So if you look at this bar, theoretically, the number of unknowns that you are going to deal with are infinite, because at each and every location you would like to know the x directional translation. But as I said, the number of infinite unknowns are converted into finite unknowns by the process of discretization. So what I am going to do is I am going to divide this beam into two elements. So let me show that to you. So if this is the beam of 3 meter length, let us say I'm going to divide it into two elements. So this is element number 1. Let me mark it with different color. Element number 1. And you might think that I would have divided the bar into two elements such that each element has the same length. But let us break that thought. That is not true. That is not necessary. So let us consider that this length is 1 meter, and the second element has a length of, just give me a second. Second element has a length of 2 meters. So this is how I have discretized the continua. So what is the meaning of discretization? So now I'm not going to consider displacements at each and every point, x directional displacement at each and every point of this beam as unknown. Instead, what I'm going to say is I'm going to consider displacement only at the start and end of these elements as unknowns. So let me do that. So what I'm going to do is this. Zara dekho. I'm going to call displacement here as unknown. By the way, as this end is fixed, we know this displacement, but to begin with, let us say this displacement is unknown. So I'm going to call it as U1. So what is, first of all, let me number the nodes of these elements. So start and end points of the elements are numbered by node numbers. So let us call this as 1, 2, and 3. So I have discretized the continuum by 1D, two node elements. Dekho, first element has a node here and node here. The second element has a node here and here. One node is common to both the elements. So therefore, I have discretized the continuum by two one node, two node 1D elements. Are you with me? Please type your response in chat box. So what is the nodal connectivity? Nodal connectivity for element number 1. I'm going to call this as element number 1, and I'm going to call this as element number 2. So what is the nodal connectivity? Element number 1 has the starting node 1 and end node 2. This is the nodal connectivity. Element number 2 has starting node 2 and end node 3. So this is how I have written the nodal connectivity. Now I want someone to interact. So let me ask Ganesh, can you unmute yourself?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's go ahead. This is E1, this is element 2. So I have discretized continuum into two elements, E1 and E2. And I'm going to consider displacement in x direction only at the start and end of the element as unknowns. So therefore, I have U1, I have U2 here, and I have U3 here. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Now, U1, U2, U3. These are the displacements in global coordinate system. I'm looking at the entire beam and I'm calling these displacements as U1, U2, and U3. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
So I have marked them with capital letters, capital U1, capital U2, and capital U3. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, what is the next thing that we are going to do? So the next thing that we are going to do is we are going to express displacements within the element as a function of nodal displacements. जो हमने last time किया था. Were you present last time, Ganesh?
Yes, sir.
So if you remember, we have already laid out the scheme for writing down the displacement within the element for 1D 2 node element. For example, let me revise that quickly. So if it is element number 1 and it is 1D 2 node element, so what is the starting node? Starting node is 1, happy, and end node is 2. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So there is going to be shape function associated with node number 1, and there is going to be shape function associated with node number 2. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, what are the coordinates of these nodes? 1, 2, 3. What are the coordinates? So I will start with 1. What is the x coordinate of node number 1? 0. What is the x coordinate of node number 2? 1. And what is the x coordinate of node number 3? 3. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
These are the coordinates because I have taken left hand side or fixed support as a origin, and x is in this direction. So these are coordinates. Happy?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yes,
what
sir.
is the coordinate of node number 1? 0. And what is the coordinate of node number 2? 1. So how do I write
1.
n1 for this element? Tell me. N1 should be 1 at 1 and it should be 0 at 2. So will it involve x minus 1? Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
If it involves x minus 1, at x equal to 0, it is going to be minus 1. But I want it to be plus 1. So I will divide it by minus 1. So this is n1. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
You can observe n1 will be equal to 1 at x equal to 0 or at node number 1. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
And it is going to be equal to 0 at node number 2. What is the value of n2? Tell me quickly. N2 should be 0. N2 should be 1
0.
at 2. 1 at
1.
and
2.
it will be 0 at
It will be 0.
0 at 1. Chalo. So if I simply write down x, it will automatically become 0 at 1. Happy?
Yes, sir.
And at 2, x itself is 1. So therefore x upon 1. So n1 is x minus 1 upon minus 1. N2 is x upon 1. Do you agree with me?
Yes.
Now, how do we write down the, let us say this is the point under consideration, whose x coordinate is x, and I want to write down the x directional deformation of this point. So how do I write within the element? So u of x, lekin this is only applicable for first element. So I am going to mention that u of x in first element. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
What is u of x? U as a function of x. What is e1 standing for? E1 stands for within the first element. It will be given as, देखो n1 u1, happy, plus
Yes, sir.
n u2. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
So n1 u1 plus n2 u2 is u of x at element number for element number within the element number 1. Now what is the value of n1? So let us write down that. So what is the value of n1? Tell me. N1 is
So x minus 1
1
upon minus 1.
yes, so it is 1 minus x. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
X u2. Happy?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, can we repeat this for element number 2? क्या element number 2 के लिए यही कर सकते हैं? Yes, easily. But for element
Yes.
number 2, we have different node numbers. So we have node number 2 here and node number 3 here. Do you agree with me?
Yes,
And
sir.
the length is 2. What is the coordinate of 2? Coordinate of 2 is 1. And what is the coordinate of 3? 3. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
So now how do I write u of x within the second element? Within the second element. कैसे लिखूं? बोलो.
X minus x u2.
It is going to be n2 u2 plus n3 u3. Right? But you will now understand that n2 is different for second element and it is different for first element. So here we need to write e1, e1. So this is n1 for shape function for element number 1. This is shape function for element number 1, n1 and n2. Can you tell me what is the value of n2 for element number 2? What is the condition? N2 for element number 2 must be equal to
1,
0 at 3
0,
and 1 at
3, 1
Do you
and
agree?
2.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So how do I write this? X minus
X.
x minus
X
3.
minus 1. X minus 3.
X minus 3. And if I evaluate the value of this function at 2, it is going to be 2 minus 3, which is minus 1. So I am going to write down this as minus 1. Divided by minus 1. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
देखो अब ये सेटिस्फाई हो रहा है कि नहीं. If I substitute x is equal to 1, oh I am sorry, I have to write it as -2. No, that's correct.
Mm.
If I substitute as x is equal to 1 here, so 1 minus 3 is -2, -2 upon -2 is 1, so n2 becomes 1 at 2. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
And if I substitute x is equal to 3, then 3 minus 3 is 0, so n2 for element 2 becomes 0 at 3. Mind you, n2 for element number 2 and n2 for element number 1 is different. Are you able to understand that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So now, what is the, how do I write u of x within element number 2? Element number 2 में u of x कैसे लिखूं? It is going to be 3 minus x by 2, 3 minus x by 2 into u2 plus n3 लिखना बाकी है अभी. So now I am going to write down n3. So how do I write n3 for element number 2? N3 for element number 2. What are the conditions? N3 should be 0 at 2 and 1 at 3. So to make n3 equal to 0 at 2, what do I have to do? X minus 1.
-1.
Then at 3, it becomes 3 minus 1, that is 2, but I want it to be 1, so I am going to divide it by 2. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
So x minus 1 by 2 into u3. So this is how I write down displacement as a function of nodal displacements in element number 1 and element number 2. So that means if I know u1, u2 and u3, I can find out displacement anywhere within this beam. Do you agree with me?
Yes.
Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. So that's how I have written this down. Now, can you tell me, can I represent this u of x as a in a matrix form? तो वो लिखने की कोशिश करते हैं. जरा देखो, u of x now not only within element number 1, anywhere in the beam can be written as, यहाँ पे जरा देखो, can I write it as function of u1, u2 and u3? जरा देखो, is it a function of u1, u2 and u3 anywhere? Yes, it is a function of u1, u2 and u3 anywhere. Now how do I write this? तो जरा यहाँ ध्यान दो first. Within the first element, how do I write u of x? Tell me.
So 1 minus x,
हाँ,
x and 0.
1 minus x.
X and 0.
Okay. So let us write it for element number 1 only. So element number 1 के लिए कैसे लिखूं बताओ? हाँ,
So 1 minus x,
1 minus x.
x,
Correct. 1 minus x, then x,
and then 0.
and then 0. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
Let's see. We can even think of skipping this u3 because u3 does not come under the element number 1. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
So I can simply write down it as a function of u1 and u2. So how do I write that? So let me write down that. So it is 1 minus x into x, u1, u2. Happy?
Yes, sir.
And That's all. So now, what is 1 minus x? 1 minus x, is it n1 for element number 1? Ganesh, you can mute, there is some
Yes.
disturbance at your side. Yes. Please type your responses in chat box. N1 for element number 1 is 1 minus x, and N2 for element number 1 is x. Do all agree with this? Type your responses in chat box. Yes. So therefore, can I write u of x within the element 1? U of x. Mind you, u of x is a displacement field because you give me the value of x and I will be able to give you the value of x directional translation. So therefore, it is a continuous function. It is a field. It is not the value at one location. It is the value at every location within the element. It's like a function. It will be given as the matrix of shape functions for all the elements of that node. So we call this as matrix of shape functions. Matrix of shape functions, and I denote it as n shape functions for the element number 1, multiplied by, I'm going to call now this as matrix of degrees of freedom. Matrix of degrees of freedom for the element, for the element. So what is degree of freedom of an element? As it is one dimensional two node element, and I am going to consider only x directional deformation as the degree of freedom. Therefore, at node number 1, you will have 1 degree of freedom, which is denoted by u1. At node number 2, you have another degree of freedom denoted as u2. U1 and U2 are degrees of freedom of this element. So we have this as 2 degree of freedom element. It is not merely a two node 1D element. It also can be called as 2 degree of freedom element, because, or we can also call it as 1 degree of freedom per node element, as it has 2 nodes and 1 degree of freedom per node. Therefore, total degrees of freedom for this element are 2. I hope you are understanding what I am trying to say. Therefore, this matrix I denote it by notation D, which is the matrix of degrees of freedom for a given element. What is the size of n matrix? In this particular case, the size of n matrix is 2 cross 1. What is the size of D matrix in this particular case? It is, sorry, this is 1 cross 2. 1 cross 2. And this size is 2 cross 1. So in general, what will be the size of shape function, matrix of shape function and matrix of degrees of freedom? That we will look at little later. But right now I can write this. I can write displacement field U as a function of matrix of degrees of freedom. That is, this is also called as matrix of nodal degrees of freedom, or matrix of nodal degrees of freedom. Nodal degrees of freedom of an element. So जिस एलिमेंट के लिए आप ये लिख रहे हो, जिस एलिमेंट के लिए आप डिस्प्लेसमेंट फील्ड लिख रहे हो, उस एलिमेंट के डिग्रीज ऑफ फ्रीडम कौन से? ओनली एट नोड्स. वी हैव कंसीडर्ड डिग्रीज ऑफ फ्रीडम ओनली एट नोड्स. u1 and u2 आर डिग्रीज only at the start and end node of element e1. We are not bothered about this x directional displacement anywhere else. So here we are relating displacement field, which essentially talks about displacement at infinite points, to displacement in x direction at finite points. This is very crucial point what I am trying to make. देखो, what is u of x in e1? u of x and e1 का अगर मुझे डिस्क्रिप्शन लिखना है तो मुझे कैसे लिखना पड़ेगा, वो डिस्क्रिप्शन में पहले लिखता हूँ. u of x in element number 1 is displacement field. लेकिन कौन सा डिस्प्लेसमेंट? इट इज एक्स डिरेक्शनल डिस्प्लेसमेंट, एक्स डिरेक्शनल translational displacement. So we are not talking about rotation about x-axis. So it is x directional translational displacement field in element number 1. What is its meaning? So element number 1 has a boundaries x running from 0 to 1. So you give me any x within this. So you can give me 0.5. You can also say that x is equal to 0.25. You can say x is equal to 0.115. You can say x equal to 0.999. At all these values of x, I am going to give you what is the value of x directional displacement at that location. So u of 0.5 means at x equal to 0.5, after the deformation under given load, what will be the x directional deformation? So that's why the notation u. So therefore, this u of x talks about displacements at x directional displacements at infinite points within the element. So I will also write that. So it talks about, that is, it talks about x directional displacement at infinite points within element number 1. Within element number 1. And we are relating it to, what are we relating it to? We are relating it to only nodal displacements. Nodal x directional displacements. This relationship is brought down, this relationship comes into existence through the matrix of shape functions. That's what we have to understand. Is everyone clear about this? Please type your response in chat box. I am waiting for the response, then I will go ahead. Yes. So now let me write down u of x in element number 2. So how do I write u of x in element number 2? So I will also have the matrix of shape functions, but here now I will have n2 for element number 2 and n3 for element number 2. This multiplied by, for second element, nodal degrees of freedom are u2 and u3. So therefore, I am going to have here u2 and u3. So mind you, this shape function matrix is for element number 1. This nodal displacement matrix, or the matrix of nodal degrees of freedom for an element, this is also for element number 1. Now this is for element number 2, and u2, u3 are degrees of freedom for nodal degrees of freedom for element number 2. So what is the value of n2 and n3? So we will borrow these values here. Let me take these values. So what is the value of n2? n2 turns out to be x3 minus x by 2. 3 minus x by 2. And n3 turns out to be x minus 1 by 2 times u2 and u3. Just give me a second. Hello. Okay, so let's resume. So this is matrix of, this is the matrix of shape functions for element number 2, and this is the matrix of nodal degrees of freedom for element number 2. So ultimately what we are now in the position to express displacement in x direction for any point within any of these elements in terms of nodal degrees of freedom. I hope everybody is with me. Okay, so this was the first step. This is discretization and then setting up the equations for displacements within the element depending upon the nodal displacements. So the only displacements that we are going to treat unknown are u1, u2 and u3. What is the next step? Now step number 2 is, so let me write down step 2. Now in this step number 2, what I need to do is I need to write down potential energy, expression for potential energy. So question, how do I write the expression for potential energy? Potential energy V for the entire structure will be given by, potential energy for the entire structure will be given by strain energy, strain energy multiplied by, strain energy minus change in potential, change in potential of external load. Now we are going to write down the second term first. So let us first take up with this term, change in potential due to external load. So how do I write? So change in potential of external load. Let us look at where the external load is prevalent. External load is prevalent on first element as well as on the second element. You can see that this 30 kilonewton per meter, this is the external load which is prevalent everywhere on the bar. That's why it is there on element number 1. It is also there on element number 2. So can I write down change in potential of external load as change in potential of external load on element number 1 plus change in potential of external load on element number 2. So that's what I'm going to do. It is the summation of change in potential on external loads on element number 1 and element number 2. Do you agree with me? Type your response in chat box. I am waiting for the response. Okay, I'm Sushant says yes. What about the others? Parshuram, Parat, Supriya, Swapnil, Shubham, Ganesh. Okay. So now, so let us write down change in potential for element number 1. So how do I write change in potential for element number 1? So जरा यहाँ पे ध्यान दो. What I am going to do is, let me draw a explanatory diagram here. So this is the element number 1. On element number 1, you have a load of 30 kilonewton per meter. ऐसे वाला load है. This is 30 kilonewton per meter. Now, if I consider at distance x, if I consider a small length dx, Then what is the load on this dx? Can we look at the load on this dx? The load on this dx is going to be equal to 30 into dx. Do you agree with me? And it is going to act towards right. So the load here is 30 dx. Agreed? On a small strip of width dx, you are going to have a load of 30 into dx. How small dx is? Dx is tending to 0. Do you agree with me? Type your response in chat box. Yes. Now, at distance x within the element, you are going to have x directional deformation as u of x dx. This is in element number 1. Do you agree with me? Type your response in chat box. 30 dx into u of x. Yes. So now, what is the change in potential? Change in potential will be 30 dx, that is load, multiplied by u of x. As we are assuming u of x towards right, it is in the direction of 30 dx. So we are going to assign a positive sign to this. So therefore, what I am trying to say is, if you look at this, what do I get? I get 30 dx into u of x within the element number 1 is, this is the loss of potential of a load acting on dx. How many such dx's are prevalent? Infinite, starting from x equal to 0 to x equal to 1, because for the first element it starts with x equal to 0, it ends with x equal to 1. So therefore I need to integrate this from x is equal to 0 to x is equal to L. That integration is going to give me the change of potential of external load within element number 1. Do you agree with me? Type your response in chat box. I am waiting for the response. Yes. Now, how do I write down change in potential for external load in element number 2? So that's also easy. Here I need to change because the load is not changing. So therefore the expression is going to remain same, except instead of x equal to 0, I will have to start with x equal to 1 to x is equal to 3. First element was from 0 to 1 and the second element is from 1 to 3. So therefore, if I do the integration of same quantity 30 dx, the only change is going to be the limits, and here when I write u of x, instead of element number 1, I will have to write down element number 2. Do you agree with me? Do you agree that this is the change in potential of external load? Type your response in chat box. Sushant says yes. What about others? Saurabh, Parshuram, Medha, Swapnil, Vishal, Anuja. Yes. Okay. So now, how do I write this u of x in element number 1? That we have already written down using n. U of x in element number 1 is n e1 into d. Do you agree with me? So can I write it as integration x is equal to 0 to 1, then 30 into n d. Of course, this n is the matrix of shape functions for element number 1. So I'm going to write it as e1, and this is for element number 2. Sorry, this is also for element number 1. Are you with me? Into dx. Plus, can I write this as x is equal to 1 to 3, 30 into sorry, n for element number 2 into d for element number 2. Do you agree with me? Type your response in chat box. Yeah. So we have now expressed change in potential due to external load as a function of only nodal degrees of freedom u1, u2 and u3. You will understand that this d in first element involves u1 and u2. This d in the second element involves only u2 and u3. So therefore this total is only a function of u1, u2 and u3. Do you agree with me? So this is a function of u1, u2 and u3. Tell me if you agree with me. Type your response in chat box. Okay, so one part of the potential energy we have expressed in terms of primary unknowns. जो हमारे primary unknowns है उनके terms में ये लिख दिया. Now let us write down. Let us look at the second part. What is second part? Second part is strain energy. So now let me write down the strain energy. How do I write down strain energy? Strain energy. So strain energy के लिए हमने already expression derive किया है. Let me say that this bar is of circular cross section. So let me draw that. ये बार अगर circular cross section का है and we give a cut line here, then what I am going to do is I am going to consider a small area dA here. This is small area dA, and on this I will say that the stress acting is sigma. Are you with me? Are you able to imagine this? This is the stress acting on a small area dA at a given x. So this is at distance x from left hand. And what is the value of strain acting here? So on this small area, the strain acting is epsilon. But you will understand that this stress and strain, as it is a problem of axial loading, is constant constant everywhere on the cross section. Do you agree with me? Let me know if you agree with me. Yes. Now consider this bar. What I am going to do is at distance x in element number 1. This is element number 1. At distance x, I am going to consider a small strip of width dx. Dx is infinitesimally small. Then in this small strip, what is the strain energy stored in the deformed configuration? This is what I am going to ask myself. So what is the strain energy stored? So I already told you strain energy stored per unit volume is half sigma into strength. Do you agree with me? Type your response in chat box. Half sigma into strength is the strain energy stored. Yes. Okay. Now, if you agree with me on this, then half sigma into stress, uh, this is strain energy stored per unit volume. But what is the volume of this small element? So it is cross-sectional area A. The entire cross-sectional area is A. Multiplied by this dx is the volume. Do you agree with me? So A dx into half stress into strain at x is nothing but the strain energy stored in this small element dx. Do you agree with me? What is the total strain energy stored in element number 1? If I ask you that question, you will have to integrate it from 0 to 1 because these are the boundaries of element number 1. Have you understood the expression for strain energy stored in first element? Please type your response in chat box. तो कैसे किया? Half stress into strain is the strain energy stored per unit volume. This stress and strain is constant over the area, so I can multiply it by A into dx, which is the volume of this small element. So the strain energy stored in this small volume is half sigma into epsilon into A into dx. If I integrate it from 0 x equal to 0 to 1, I get strain energy stored in element number 1. Do you agree with me? Type your response in chat box. Sushant, Parshuram, Viraj, Akshita, Bharat, I am waiting for your responses. Okay. Now what will be the strain energy? So therefore, I need to write down total strain energy stored. So let me write down that strain energy stored in the entire body. This will be equal to strain energy stored in element number 1, strain energy stored in element number 1 plus strain energy stored in element number 2. Do you agree with me? Type your response in chat box. What is the strain energy stored in element number 1? It is integration 0 to 1. Half can come outside. Then you have sigma, you have epsilon, you have A into dx. Plus, this is for element number 1, you have to understand. And this is half can come outside. For second element, the limits are going to change. It is 1 to 3, sigma, epsilon, A, dx. This is for element number 2 that you have to understand. Do you agree with me? Have you understood the expression for total strain energy stored in the deformed configuration of this bar? Please type your response in chat box. Unless you respond, I can't go ahead. Ganesh says yes. What about Shubham? What about Parat? Nida? Do I have to pronounce names every time? Okay. Now, how do I write the relationship between stress and strain in this particular case? As this is the one-dimensional case, therefore, truly speaking, what I should do is I should write the expression as stress is equal to stress tensor is equal to C times epsilon. Are you with me? I hope you know this relationship. This we call it as constitutive matrix. Now, by the way, what are the components of stress tensor? So typically, stress tensor is going to have these many components: sigma xx, sigma yy, sigma zz, tau xy, tau yx, sorry, tau yz, and tau xn. These are the components. Now, tell me in this, how many components are prevalent? Sigma xx. Is sigma xx present in this case? Now I want someone to unmute. Ganesh, can you unmute now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Tell me, out of these stress components, which are the stress components that are prevailing in this case? Is sigma xx present?
Yes, sir.
What about sigma yy?
So, no.
Sigma yy, sigma zz, tau xy, tau xyz, and tau xz will not be present. Do you agree with me? Ganesh, you can mute yourself. Anuja, can you unmute? Anuja, can you unmute? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So have you understood that why only sigma xx is prevalent here?
Yes, sir.
Other stress components in this particular format of loading are absent. When you load it axially, only axial stress is going to prevail. All sigma yy, tau xy shear stresses are going to be absent. Sigma zz is also going to be absent. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
So as there is only one stress component present here, the size of the stress matrix will be 1 cross 1. Do you agree with me? Do you agree?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and corresponding strain component is epsilon xx. So therefore, this size is also going to be 1 cross 1. Happy?
Yes, sir.
And then what is the size of C matrix? It also has to be 1 cross 1. So the only relationship that prevails here is sigma xx is equal to E times epsilon xx. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
So E is the constitutive matrix here, which is of the size 1 cross 1. But for the sake of completeness, I am going to express, just give me a second. Okay. So for the sake of completeness, I am going to express this sigma as C times epsilon. But we have to understand C is 1 cross 1 in this particular case. And epsilon and sigma are also 1 cross 1 in this particular case. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let me write down that. So how do I write sigma xx? So sigma stress tensor, which is 1 cross 1 in this particular case, is equal to matrix C, which is also constitutive matrix but 1 cross 1 in this case, multiplied by strain tensor, which is 1 cross 1 in this particular case. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now can you tell me what is the relationship between the strain and displacement matrix? Strain और displacement में relationship क्या है? So here we are going to have displacements U, V, W. Do you agree with me?
Yes,
And
sir.
then we had कैसे लिखूं बोलो, वो मैट्रिक्स था ना एप्सिलॉन एक्स एक्स इज इक्वल टू डो बाय डो एक्स. Do you agree
Yes,
with
sir.
me? Then
Yes, sir.
0 0, then we have 0 dou by dou y, so on and so forth. ये ऐसे मैट्रिक्स था, right? Do you
So
agree with me?
actually in last lecture I wasn't there.
But okay, so have you not gone through what has been taught?
Sir, actually you were going to send the recordings, but I didn't receive
No,
it.
leave recording, but did you catch up
Yes,
with the
sir.
things?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so and this is not a part of last class, this is a part of solid mechanics.
Okay, sir.
लास्ट क्लास में हमने ये रिवाइज किया था. एनीवे,
Okay.
सो गणेश, आर यू एबल टू रिमेंबर दिस? Type your
Yes, sir.
response in chat box. Yes. So this is how we have strain displacement relationship. Now, in this particular case, Ganesh, you can mute. In this particular case, we have only epsilon xx as a strain tensor. So therefore, we are going to have only one relationship, dou by dou x acting on ux, acting on u. We don't have v, we don't have w, we don't have y directional displacement field, we don't have z directional displacement field. So in this particular case, the displacement field matrix is of the size 1 cross 1. This matrix, which we called it as B matrix, this is also of the size 1 cross 1. Are you with me? By the way, there is slight change in notation. We are called this matrix as B here, but we are going to call, as per the standard notation, we will call this matrix as L. L matrix stands for the matrix of operators. So in the last class also make that correction. Last class we had called this matrix as B matrix, but it is the matrix of operators, which is denoted by L. So I am going to write this as matrix of operators of operators. So in this particular case, we have epsilon matrix of size only 1 cross 1. Which is equal to epsilon x, and it can be written as L times U matrix. This matrix we had given a notation as U, if you remember. So U is the matrix of displacement fields U, V and W. Though it consists of displacements in all the directions, we had denoted it by small letter U. But in this particular case, V and W are absent. So U itself is a matrix of 1 cross 1. So now what we are going to do is we are going to write down, we are going to back substitute all these things here in this expression for strain energy. So let me take the expression for strain energy. 1 minute. So let me take this expression there. ये expression यहाँ ले. And in this, now we are going to substitute all the values that we have discussed. Fine. So now strain energy stored will be the summation of strain energy in element number 1 plus strain energy in element number 2. So therefore strain energy stored now can be written as half integration 0 to 1. Now stress, I'm going to substitute it as C times U. So I'm going to write it as C times epsilon. But epsilon, let me write it. Stress is C times epsilon. If you remember in last class, we had this sigma. So in matrix form, it was sigma transpose epsilon A dx plus integration half 1 to 3. If you refer to last class notes, you will understand why transpose needs to be taken so that the matrix multiplication is possible. Sigma transpose epsilon A dx. This is for element number 1. This is for element number 2. Now, this is equal to half integration 0 to 1. How do I write stress tensor? So I have shown you that stress tensor is written as C times epsilon. So that's what I'm going to do. So next step, stress tensor is going to be C times epsilon, where C is the constitutive matrix. I'm going to take its transpose multiplied by epsilon strain tensor as it is multiplied by A dx. The same thing is valid for element number 2 only with the change of limits. So I'm going to copy this plus the limits are going to change and limits are going to be from 1 to 3. One to 3. Now, what happens to when once I take this transpose, this becomes half integration 0 to 1 epsilon transpose. ये सब हमने last class में किया है, so I am not going to explain it much. Epsilon transpose C epsilon C transpose epsilon transpose C transpose epsilon A dx plus half integration 1 to 3 epsilon transpose C transpose epsilon A dx. Now, how do I replace this epsilon in terms of displacement? So that's what we are going to do in the next class. So we are going to stop here today, and in next class, what is the focus? The focus is now we are going to express this potential energy as a function of U1, U2 and U3. In that we have already expressed the second part. Now we are talking about the first part. So once we are through with this task, that is expressing potential energy as a function of U1, U2 and U3, then we are going to apply principle of minimization of potential energy, and then we are going to get U1, U2, U3. This is the flow in which we are going to work. We will stop here today. In the next class we will continue with this formulation. Please type your name and PRN number in chat box, and then you can leave the meeting.